Hey there, and welcome to the tutorial for getting started for data entry for whitsonPVT. Now, let's start with the first things first. We're basically going to be inputting a bit of compositional and PVT data from an Excel database, which has been extracted from a PVT report. The first thing we're going to want to do is click here in the user manual, first things first, and we're going to use this convention here to add a new field. Then what we can do is go to courses.pvt.whitson.com and simply click add field, paste what we have, select the fluid type that we're going to be inputting data for, and since it's Duvernay, it's an unconventional basin, we're going to be just putting in like this, click save, and now we can start putting in our data. The first step here is that we're going to want to add a PVT report. We're going to be putting in this sample, so we can just drag and drop this off by clicking add PVT report, dragging it in. We can just say Excel example, put in today's date. Here we can just put in Weatherford because we know it's going to come from Weatherford Laboratory. Click save, and then we can add the sample by clicking add PVT sample, and we're going to be asked to put in some of the information. Then we just open this Excel file, and you can see that already the data has been put in. So we can just copy over the sample name. We can copy over the sample type. We can copy over the well name. We can copy over the sample date. The reservoir. And the formation. Once all the data is put in, we can click save, and we're taken to the general info tab. Now we're going to want to specify what type of the fluid we have, and we can see that it's an oil, so we just click that and save. And then if we want to, we can also add the pressure and temperature when sampled. That can be found down here, and we're going to have to put in the unit. The same goes for the temperature. And here we can shorten this list by putting in an F, and then only the elements with F in it will be shown. Then we can click save there as well, and we can continue on to the compositional data. Similar to the software, we'll also have a separate tab here in the Excel file, which is going to contain the compositional data. And unlike most PVT softwares, it's divided into 3 sections because it's a single stage flash recombined fluid. So we're going to have to put in compositions for the recombined fluid, the flashed gas, and the flashed oil that come from that fluid. So we can just start by filling out the boxes here on the left first, and you'll find the same information here. And we'll just copy it over. Then click save. Move on down, put in the flash gas molecular weight, flash gas specific gravity, the flashed oil molecular weight, and that's it. The next step is going to be to put in the compositions, and you see we have 2 tabs here, one for our recombined fluid and one for our flash fluid. And here we have our flashed gas and our flashed oil. And if you're ever wondering what type of fluid sample that you have, you can always click the question mark, and it'll tell you where the terminology is coming from. So we got our recombined fluid going through a single stage flash procedure, and then we get our flash fluids out here on the right. Then we can just move over the data from the Excel file, copy, if you click the top of the column here, then you'll select the entire column. That way you'll ensure you're putting in the data at the top even when you're scrolled down. Paste it in, click save, move over to the flash fluids, find the flashed gas composition first, click Save, and then we have our flashed oil. Mark the top of the column, paste it in, click Save. Now we've put in all of the compositional data for this sample. We can click Plot to have a closer look at how the compositions are put in, what it looks like. And you can see that the software has already put in the correct isomers between the single carbon number components based on their normal boiling point. The next step is going to be to put in the PVT experimental data, which can be found up here on the third tab. And then we're going to have to add an experiment. If we go over to our Excel file again, you can see that we have a CCE experiment, a DLE experiment, and a viscosity experiment. And we're going to start by putting in the CCE experiment. Simply click Add Experiment, choose the experiment type, constant composition expansion. It's going to give a default name here. You can change that if you want. And then we're going to have to put in a temperature with a given unit. We have our temperature here, so we can simply paste it in, click Save. Then we're going to be asked to put in the saturation pressure type and the saturation pressure, which is shown here. Put that in, and put in the saturation pressure as well with its correct units. Then click Save. Then we're going to be asked to put in the data for the stage data for the CCE experiment, and that can be found here. So we can just do this, copy that, and paste it in here. Now we're going to have to change the units, and we do that by simply clicking on the unit box, changing it here, and then click Save. If we want to remove this empty column, we can just click this select additional columns, deselect that, click Save, and then we're good. The next step is going to be to insert the DLE experimental data. And as you can see, it's slightly more complicated. So we're going to go back to the software, click Add Experiment, select the DLE experiment, and since we only have one, we can just use the default name. We're asked to put in the temperature, just like before. Click Save. Then we have some residual fluid information, which can be found down here. So you have your residual oil molecular weight, the residual oil density in units is kilograms per cubic meter, and this last stage specific gravity is a special case that you typically don't have to enter unless your last stage of the DLE is at a higher pressure than around 1 atmosphere. And in this case, we can see we're about at 1 atmosphere here, so that's fine. The next step is to put in the stage data for all the pressure stages, starting from the saturation pressure going down. And then click Save. We can also remove the unused liberated gas column, shown here, to get a nice and filled out form here. Then you see we have, next to the stage data, we have the residual oil composition input and the liberated gas composition. And what you can see is that the number of stages going here to the right is synced with what's in the stage data shown here. So you can have a one-to-one correlation between the pressure steps below the saturation pressure and the liberated gas being removed. If we move back to the Excel file, you see we have the residual oil composition here in both mass and mole, and paste it. The next step is the liberated gas compositions, and they can simply be copied from here and paste. Great. The last step here is to put in the viscosity experiment. So we're going to do just like before, add experiment, find our oil viscosity experiment, put in our temperature, like so, and then we can simply mark the data, copy, paste it, and then we just have to make sure to pick the correct units for the pressure. Now we've put in all the compositional data and all of the PVT experimental data for this sample. We can go over to the quality checks and click Run. Then it's going to take all of the different data that's been put in, and it's going to run different QCs depending on what data has been entered. So we can see that our recombined composition has been run through the QC, the constant composition, and the differential liberation experiment, where you can see that the material balance is closing. All right, that was a quick introduction to how to enter data when the data is already structured in a given format. With that, thanks for watching. Good luck.